All right, what's good, YouTube? This is Boxingwave. Now, look, there's a ton of fights this weekend. There's a lot of fights this weekend. All right, I know I've only given you one breakdown: Plant against Benavidez, which is the major fight of the weekend. All right, that breakdown is out. Be sure to check it out if you haven't already. Now, there's a lot of good fights on that undercard. It's a pay-per-view on Showtime. I will be here Saturday to do the cover of the fight. I also will be covering the Jose Ramirez fight as well against Richard Comey. I didn't have time to do breakdowns for these fights, and I didn't have time to do film study and all that. All right, so I'm just gonna pick like about 5 or 6 fights here that I'm definitely interested in, and I'm gonna just give you my predictions on these fights for this weekend. All right. Let's start out with this list. I just put it in any random order. Let's start out with Chris Colbert against Jose Valenzuela. Now, this fight, I was shocked that it's happening. It's a really, really good fight, but I'm surprised that it's happening right now because both of these guys, especially Valenzuela, he's been a prospect for a while. Chris Colbert is a lot more seasoned, haven't really stepped up to the biggest challenges. Hector Garcia was definitely his biggest test to date, but going into that fight, a lot of people didn't realize that because a lot of people weren't familiar with Hector Garcia going into that fight. Hector Garcia kind of got his name off of that Chris Colbert win, right? And that was for the at the time, I think that was for the regular WBA title. Okay, I think Tank was still holding the super WBA title at 130 at that time. So this fight here, Chris Colbert hasn't had a fight since that loss to Hector Garcia, right? And Jose Valenzuela, he's coming off, and now Jose is a prospect that was running through a lot of guys. You know, he had just demolished Francisco Vargas, who's like a former champion, and he's definitely past it, but he just demolished him in one round. So this is a prospect that we were, throwing his name out there with like Frank Martin and all these other guys that's at 135. It's a crowded division. He's one of those guys that we were bringing up. And, he goes into a fight with Edwin De Los Santos, who is unknown to me, but I remember watching the fight. And De Los Santos, you look at his record, he's basically knocked out just about everybody he's fought. He had one fight where he lost, where he was, outboxed. And this guy destroys Jose Valenzuela. He stops him in 3 rounds. I remember watching the fight, but I can't remember exactly why he lost. I remember there was a specific shot that Santos just kept landing over and over and over again. And Jose pretty much got exposed and he got knocked out. I mean, and honestly, as we were watching, I know it was on the undercard of a fight that I was covering. You saw it coming. Probably as early as the first round. Jose was just getting exposed. So, with that being said, as far as this prediction, I'm not going to go that deep into it. I'm predicting Chris Colbert to win. I know he lost to Hector Garcia, but Hector Garcia has proven to be a lot better than a lot of us realized going into that Chris Colbert fight. Whereas Jose Valenzuela, I'm not really sure how good he really is. I mean, that loss was a pretty bad loss. And even though Chris Colbert had one of the most humbling losses because he was doing a lot of talking about everybody, a lot of fighters leading up to that fight, even as far as Deontay Wilder, he was talking trash about so many fighters. He's created so many enemies. I mean, yes, he lost the fight to Hector, but it was still a lot more competitive. And, and I don't want to base it on off of all of that based on that, but Colbert, a lot more experience, a lot more seasoned. I just feel like this is not the right fight to have right now for neither one of them. They're both coming off of their first loss, and this is a fight that I feel that is dangerous for both still. I'm picking Chris, but this fight is very dangerous still because even if Jose finds a way to pull this one off, and I didn't check the odds for any of these, but if Jose finds a way to pull this fight off, not only does it really hurt Chris Colbert and for his career because he's going to basically become a journeyman, but it doesn't fix whatever issues that Jose had in his last loss. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean by that? Like, he can actually beat Chris Colbert and pretty much, bring Colbert, because Colbert hasn't really proven himself that much neither, and I felt like as long as he's been pro, I think he should have been fighting guys at Hector Garcia's level or even above before that. Not long ago, we was talking about Chris Colbert fighting Shakur Stevenson. So, yes, he brought some of that down, but doesn't mean that Jose is really that good by being Chris Colbert. So with that being said, it's just a dangerous fight because now if Chris wins a fight, then Jose is, especially if he gets stopped, Jose, his career could be like let's say he was a top ranked fighter. Bob Arum would have just dropped him. He might just become a journeyman after this, so young in his career. So it's just as a wild fight to have. I wasn't expecting it, but it's a good fight. It's a good matchup. But these two fighters need to win this fight. This is a must win for both fighters so early in their careers. Coming off their first loss, now they're going into another must win fight. So I'm leaning towards Chris Colbert. I'm not picking my knockout or decision, but I'm leaning towards Chris Colbert to win this fight. All right, let's go into the next fight. Christian Emberly against Carlos Gongora. That fight is actually tonight on ESPN Plus. So it's tonight, Thursday, March 23, 7 p.m. Eastern. Is going to be on ESPN Plus. This is a Thursday night fight, so that's later. That's hours from now. All right. This fight here, to be honest, I've seen Christian fight. I've seen Carlos Gongora fight 2 times. I seen him when he beat Ali Akhmadov. All right, and I think that was an upset fight, because I seen Akhmadov fight lead on to that. Gongora, I'd never seen him fight before. But then I seen him lose to Leron Richards. I saw that fight where he was just outboxed. All right, and it's hard to call because honestly, when I first heard about this fight, I was leaning towards Gongora, only because we've seen him deal with a really aggressive fighter where he was able to take the power, work his way through the aggressive fighter and overcome that and win and come back and beat Ali Akhmadov and stopping him. Okay, very, very great performance. It was an amazing, phenomenal performance. He's a good boxer, southpaw fighter, has power as well, and he was able to outwork the aggressive fighter. Christian Emberly, good fighter, has some good wins. I haven't seen, I was a couple of the fights that I wanted to see. I tried to look up real quick, wasn't able to find anything. So off the top, I am going to pick Christian Emberly. I think his aggression, I think he's going to be able to do it a little bit better, a little bit smarter than Ali Akhmadov. I am changing my pick. I did pick Gongora originally, but I think I'm going to go with Emberly. Just looking at a few minutes of looking at his stuff, I think he's going to be able to do it smarter with his aggression. He's going to be short. He's going to be coming low. He's going to be throwing hooks. And if, and it's a big if he is durable, because he's going to be fighting a puncher here, right? A puncher that boxes good. If he's durable, I'm expecting him to win this one, edge this one. All right, but tough fight. Personally, I think it's 50-50. Carlos, if Carlos wins this fight tonight, I would not be surprised at all. But I'm leaning towards Emberly to win this fight. I think Emberly is underrated. I think he's not talked about enough, even by myself. Kind of forget about him. But he's a good fighter, and I'm expecting him to edge it out. All right, next fight, Jose Ramirez against Richard Comey. Okay, Jose Ramirez is going to be making his first fight back. He did take a break. I know he got married. He lost to Josh Taylor, went up and fought Jose Pedraza and beat Pedraza on points. All right, and he hasn't been back in the ring in a year. So this fight is not the worst fight. It's definitely not 50-50. Jose Ramirez is definitely the favorite. I did check the odds. This was the only fight that I did check the odds for, and Jose Ramirez is a pretty heavy favorite. Now, I do think he's going to win the fight. I'm shocked at how wide the odds are. Okay, especially because Comey does have power, and Comey has been very, very active. All right, he did fight Jose Pedraza too. The fight went to a draw. I think part of the reason is that, you know, as powerful as Richard Comey is, I think he lacks speed. I think he lacks great conditioning. You know, I think when he burns out and tires out, he no longer has to snap on his punches in the second half of the fight. You know, I think he's pretty explosive in the first half, but he can be outboxed and he can be outworked and he can be hurt as well. So that's part of the reason why I'm going with Jose Ramirez. I did put a little bit of money down on both. I put the majority on Jose Ramirez winning this by knockout, and I put a small amount on Richard Comey to win by knockout, only because, you know, he has a puncher's chance. We've seen Ramirez hurt before, and you know, it's just in case Comey ends up clipping him with a lucky shot. You never know. But I don't think Comey is winning this fight. You know, I think Ramirez, power puncher, aggressive style fighting. You know, he's going to be coming in hooking, and I think he's just a better boxer overall. He has a better jab. I just think overall the fundamentals and everything, even with his aggression, I don't think he's reckless. I think he's smart, and I think he's going to outbox Richard Comey and eventually stop him from a TKO stoppage from outworking him. All right. So that's my pick on there. Let's move right along. Jesus Ramos against Joey Spencer. Just another fight here where I don't really know between these two. This one, I really don't know who's going to win this one. I mean, if I had to pick a win, if I absolutely had to pick someone, I'm going to lean towards Joey Spencer, you know, because even though I don't feel like he's for anybody he's been boxing, he's been a prospect for such a long time. You know, I still think that Jesus Ramos didn't look that great in the Santa Maria fight. I did watch the fight, and even though he beat Vladimir Hernandez, it was a good win. It was a domination win, and he really put him on the map. But in that Santa Maria fight, just not a good performance from him. And I think that Joey Spencer is possibly going to outbox him to a decision, to a close decision. All right, but Jesus Ramos, aggressive fighter. He's going to be coming forward like a bull, throwing a lot of punches. He reminds me of the Figueroa brothers with his style. He's just very aggressive, very big for the weight at 154, and very powerful. And I'm not sure what weight they're fighting at, but I'm assuming they're fighting at 154. But I'm going to edge it for Joey Spencer. I think he's going to win it on points. But let's just say he's been overrated all this time. He could be exposed in this fight. All right. But I'm leaning towards Spencer. All right. Moving right along. Lawrence Okolie is going to be finally making his return to the ring as David Light. And I'm glad to see Lawrence Okolie, because all this mess going on with Eddie Hearn and just, you know, the promoter beef and the Richard Reactor beef and all this stuff going on outside of the ring, and just the ring rust. He has not been in the ring in a year now. Mikhail Shizlak was his best, you know, it was his best opponent up to date at this time, and I remember covering the fight, and to be honest, it seemed like Lawrence Okolie he got a couple of stoppages, and he started to look like the KO artist and a fighter that, you know, a lot of people didn't believe he was. But going to this Shizlak's fight, it just, even though he had points where he was able to hurt Shizlak and land some big right hands, we saw a lot of the older Lawrence Okolie where it was a lot of holding. You know, he doesn't have much of an inside game, and it seemed like it was just a lot of wrestling, and it was just an ugly performance. It was kind of a snooze fest of a fight, and it reminded me of some of his older fights. And I'm hoping in this fight that I'm actually not hoping, I'm expecting him to KO David Light. You know, don't know much about David, but I did get the chance a few minutes to check out his stuff, and I just don't think he's on the level of Lawrence Okolie. I hope Lawrence is happy with Boxer. I hope everything will work out. All that mess with Eddie Hearn, let's move past that, and do what you got to do. You know, legally, if you're going to do anything, if you're going to sue or whatever, that's cool. But I'm just glad that he's back in the ring, because I want to eventually see him against Jai Opataya and them have the unification match because those are the top two guys at cruiserweight at this point. All right, and that's really it. I have Lawrence Okolie knocking him out, man. I have him catching him with a right hand and stopping Mike David Light at some point in this fight. All right, and last but not least, Cody Crowley is going to be also on the undercard of the uh, Caleb Plant and David Benavidez fight. Cody Crowley against Abel Ramos. Not really much to say here. I'm expecting Cody Crowley to win this one. I think he's gonna outwork Abel Ramos. You know, I just don't think Ramos has looked that good in his most recent performances. And you know, I think at one point he did look really good, like you know when he stopped Brian Perella. Um, I think you know there were certain fights that he had early in his career that he looked good, right? When he stopped Omar Figueroa, but it's just other fights where it's just like I don't know, man. Cody Crowley has looked good. He's looked better, and I don't know if this is going to be a stoppage win for Cody, but I think Cody's going to outwork him and most likely win a decision. I'm expecting a decision win, a wide win for Cody Crowley. I think he's just tougher. I think he's more durable. You know, I think he's going to have more firepower, and I think he's going to win this one. So this fight will be on the undercard of Plant and Benavidez. So will Jesus Ramos and Joey Spencer. That's also on the undercard. And you have Chris Colbert and Jose Valenzuela on the undercard of Plant and Benavidez, which is going to be Saturday night. I will be doing live commentary. Also, sorry if I'm having this out of order, but I had to do this real quick. Krista Emberly and Carlos Gongora is tonight or today, all right, wherever time, depending on what time you guys are. It's going to be in a few hours on ESPN Plus. And you also got Jose Ramirez against Richard Comey. That's also going to be on Saturday night around 7 p.m. Eastern. So that card is going to start a little earlier than the Showtime pay-per-view card. And I will be covering that fight as well. All right, so those are just my quick predictions for the weekend. And it's just to go down one last time. I got Chris Colbert edging out Jose Valenzuela. I don't know by knockout, but just straight up. I have Colbert winning that fight. I have Emberly edging out Gongora. I have Ramirez stopping Comey. I have Joey Spencer decisioning Jesus Ramos in a tough fight. I think Lawrence Okolie is going to stop David Light. And I think Cody Crowley is going to win a decision against Abel Ramos. All right, so let me know what you guys think in the comments. And again, if you haven't saw my breakdown of Caleb Plant, Benavidez, go check that out. Subscribe to the channel. Smash the like button. I need to get out of here. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.